Joining me now is the man you're going to hear on the call Sunday night in Philadelphia, NBC's Mike Tirico. Mike, welcome in.
Travis, good to be with you, and great to see the Dolphins on a roll here. It's going to be a fun Sunday night in South Philly.
Couple of 5-1 teams again Sunday night. Dolphins at Eagles. The first matchup of 5-1 teams or better on Sunday Night Football since 2015. And I always like getting some behind the scenes stuff from you guys here, Mike. Is this one that you and the crew have had circled on the calendar for a little while?
Well, certainly when you see the start that the Dolphins got off to and knowing what the Eagles did last year and their great success getting to the Super Bowl, you figure this would be a really good odd matchup. We have back-to-back odd matchups, meaning unless there is the variant of that 17th game, you only see this once every 4 years. So it's got a little bit of uniqueness to see the two teams together. And they may be the two, along with San Francisco and Detroit, two of the four most interesting teams in the NFL. And you put on top of that the fact that it's Jalen against Tua, the two guys forever intertwined in Alabama history. And we've been hoping that the matchup would be the equal of this.
You took me into some of these storylines there, and that's where I wanted to go to next because you mentioned Tua versus Hurts and their storied history together back at Alabama. I think, either fan base would argue these receiving corps are the best of the National Football League, respectively. And, as the narrator of this great story we're going to get on Sunday night, you mentioned the compelling nature of the league. All these great stories and backgrounds is what makes it so compelling to me personally. As the narrator of the story Sunday night, as it were, what are some of the threads that you're most interested to follow, whether it's Tua, Hurts, or otherwise?
When you hone in on Tua and Jalen, I think that storyline is so special because maybe a little bit of what Jalen has become is because Tua became this sensation as a freshman, right? And we immediately saw the ability of Jalen Hurts to overcome adversity, knocked out or taken out of the lineup, comes back in the SEC championship game the following year, goes to Oklahoma, has an incredible year, and comes in the NFL as a second-round pick who wasn't seen as, hey, you're going to be the savior of the franchise. And people are going, why are the Eagles taking a quarterback this early? And it turns out he's a difference maker. And when you spend time with him, as you spend time with Tua, you understand how they're wired. And there's a great similarity in that. So you're sure that'll be one of the storylines, but it's really about on the field once you get the game going. And right now, Jalen Hurts is coming off a poor game with 3 picks against the Jets. And Tua and this offense, as I said before, you want to be ready for the next snap because you may see as good a play as you've seen all year in the NFL. They're that explosive.
You talk about the Alabama ties there, obviously Waddle and Smith as well, but it stays in the SEC when you consider this Eagles defense having so many Georgia or former Georgia Bulldogs, I should say, on that defense. And that's kind of where my eyes train first with this matchup is the trenches, because this Dolphins offensive line, Mike, has performed, I think, better than anyone's expectations, outside the building here. But they draw a front with not just, Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick off the edge, but man, when I watch that tape, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox inside, what intrigues you most about that matchup? Because to me, it's good on good, Mike.
It is, and it's interesting. You see so much of Miami's success come outside that area, right? Do you go bang your head against Davis and Carter and Cox and those guys, or do you just use your speed to get to the edge, right? There's a physicality to Philadelphia, and there's a speed, sleek, racing machine type mentality that people have for the Dolphins, which doesn't mean they can't line up and run the ball, but it's usually that speed that gets it done. So that's always a fascinating matchup, right? When we have the speed against power, you got to catch them to use that power, right? So how is that going to play out? But yeah, you hit on something good. I didn't mean to omit Jalen Waddle. We can go on and on with all the SEC talent in this game, but look, these are two teams that when you look at these rosters have that talent, which come from great programs. So they're pro ready. And that's a credit to the drafting on each side. What Chris Greer's been able to do with Miami and to build this Dolphins team with trades and acquisitions, and the same way with Howie Roseman. So you start to look at it and you say, okay, there aren't similarities. There are similarities in these teams. That's why I think getting a matchup like this of great on great in the AFC and the NFC, and it could be a Super Bowl type matchup, That just adds to the intrigue of all of this.
What have you seen in terms of growth from this Dolphins team? You know, going from year one and Mike McDaniel covering that Steelers and Chargers game a year ago to now Patriots this year and then coming up on Sunday against the Eagles. How have you seen this team grow under Mike McDaniel?
You're always better year two at something than year one. Year one, you may have new and may connect and all that, but you're still figuring out, where do we keep the mints? Where are the extra pillows hidden, right? You just try to figure out everything that's the nuanced little stuff, right? As you set it up. Now Mike and his staff know that. And now I think you're just seeing it go to another level. And same thing in the personnel office with Greer, as I mentioned before. You laid up foundation and now you're building on it. And I think we're seeing that. Now, where I think this season is going to be decided is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. Having the same group out there will be important. Andrew Van Ginkel's been outstanding this year in every role he's in, right? I almost like him as an edge rusher more than a backer at this point. But as the safeties settle in to what Vic wants and how he wants it, the dictation of the defense from back there on through each level, there are enough pass rushers here to mess up a game. And if you go back to watch the Philadelphia Jets game, Travis, for me, one of the big things was the pressure that flushed Jalen Hurts on a regular basis. So, can Jalen Phillips back in the lineup last week? Can he get more snaps and impact the game? And Van Ginkel, Steelers already got 4 sacks. Bradley Chubb has a chance to play again and play at a high level, right? So can those guys do that? For me, that would be another level of jump as year two comes in. That defense and how Vic plays out, I think is going to be really important to the growth of this Miami team that's got the right pieces on the offensive side to be on a run here for the next couple of years.
Yeah, one more thing for you here, Mike. You mentioned it earlier. You were here for Dolphins and Steelers and honoring the 1972 perfect team just last October, I believe it was, and you emceed the banquet for those guys. I have to imagine you have hundreds, countless stories from that night, but I'm really curious just how special it was for you personally to be a part of a night that was so special to so many other people.
3 things I'll hit you with quickly on that night, Travis. The first one is bravo to Steve Ross and everybody, the Dolphins, Garfinkel, the whole crew for pulling that together, right? What a vision, what a night. And the personal for me was to walk out on that stage, see the 72 Dolphins and Dolphin greats and alumni in their aqua jackets, right? The blue jackets, just signifying who they were in terms of Dolphins greatness. And to look around the room and see that plus the gold jackets of Hall of Famers, you're like, wow, what a special organization and what an honor for everyone to stop and pause and celebrate something we haven't seen in the NFL for a half century, realize how tough it is. The second part was extremely personal as somebody who is in his mid-50s, who grew up on these Dolphins and watched that Super Bowl, just to see heroes who we talked about for 50 years and be able to say hi and have a conversation with them and watch them celebrate together, some of whom hadn't been in the same room together for quite some time. And then the third one for me was there were a couple of members of the Kansas City Chiefs and a couple of members of the Pittsburgh Steelers, legendary teams there. That said everything to me. To hear them tell the stories of the respect that they had for what those Dolphins did, and especially the Steeler guys, who pointed out that the Dolphins set the target that the Steelers aspired to and really helped inspire that 4 championships in a 6-7 year stretch that Pittsburgh achieved. I never thought of that, never put that together, but to hear the Steelers share that to the Dolphins, just that respect from one dynasty that passed it on to another. Well, what a special night. And for those of us who love football, and I love this game, for those of us who love it and are blessed to be a part of it professionally, to share in that night was one of the memories that I will take with me for a long time. And but like I said, bravo to the Dolphins organization. You can say a lot of things about this Miami organization. The one thing that has to start at the top is how first class an organization it has been under the ownership of Stephen Ross. They have not spared an expense. Look at that training facility across the way from the stadium. Look at the F1 race. Look at the tennis there. They have invested. Stephen Ross is of a deep belief that when you own a professional sports team, you have the absolute need to connect with your community. And he takes that responsibility seriously. And from events like that, or the experience at Hard Rock, or the F1 race, all that, you see it. And the Dolphins are doing everything they can. They have all the resources to be as successful as any team in the league.
It's my third year coming to this building every single day, Mike, and I still pinch myself every day because this place is it's beautiful. It really is, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. And Dolphins fans and Mr. Ross as well, certainly hoping for the on-field product to match what they've been doing so far in terms of getting this place into what you just described it as. And so far, 5-1 looks like it's on its way to doing just that. Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. NBC Sunday Night Football play-by-play man, Mike Tirico. Mike, I appreciate your time so much today. Thank you. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we'll see you out there.
My pleasure, Travis. Look forward to seeing you. We look forward to getting back to South Florida at some point soon. Thanks again.